Hello and welcome to my first online tutorial on layer masks. A couple things you'll have to know about. One is you'll have to know how to actually make corrections using correction layers. You'll also need to learn how to use a brush, and with those two pieces of information you'll be able to do this relatively simple process. Okay, so we have an image right here that is a little bit underexposed, although the whole thing's not underexposed. If you look at the left and if you look at the bottle and the front, that's kind of dark. But if you look at the background, that's probably about where I want it. Now, the trick is, how do I make corrections to the parts that I don't like and keep the ones that I do? Well, the trick to this is to start by making a correction to everything and then edit back to make the dark parts look the way I want. So I'm going to go to an adjustment layer. Now there's two places to go to adjustment layers. There are these icons right here, which mean nothing to me. I have no idea how to work these icons. You can also go down here to this little half circle and click on it. And I'm much better with words. So you click on this, and then you get a bunch of words. And the words I'm interested in is I want to make an adjustment layer with curves. So generally, what I want to do is I want to make at least this area brighter. But like I said, I'm going to have to start with the whole thing. So I'm going to click somewhere on this graph, put a point there, and drag it up. So as you can see, things are much brighter where they were too dark, but things are kind of blown out in the areas that I liked originally. We fixed that with a mask. So what is a mask? A mask is something that allows you to selectively block out adjustments or even parts of images that you don't want. Right now, notice that there is this property tile right here. And this property tile changes. I'll click on the property. This is the property here. But notice there's a white box here. That white box is a mask. If I click back on the mask, you'll see that the properties change, and that'll be important. So this is the properties of the adjustment. This is the properties of the mask. The mask is white right now. A white mask is a mask that's just letting all the adjustment go through. Now a black mask is a mask that lets none of the adjustment go through. I can get a black mask by hitting the invert button on the bottom of the properties panel. And putting a black mask is basically the same as not having an adjustment at all. If I scroll over to the visibility icon, notice when I turn it on and off, there's no difference anymore, right? So the trick is, I have this black mask and I want to paint in with the paintbrush some white, which will allow some of the adjustment to show through while blocking out the adjustment in other areas. So you can either scroll over to your toolbar and pick the brush that way, or hit the B key to get it. So with my brush selected and I scroll down here, notice that there are two swatches. The swatch in the front determines the color of your brush. The swatch in the front is white, so I'm all good to go. I'm going to increase the size of my brush and I'm going to paint. Paint over here, I paint over here maybe. No. Change the size of my brush, make it a little smaller, and make that better. All good. This is just to show that there are portions now that are lighter, and there's portions that have remained the same. And I can option click on the mask and show you what I've done. That is what the mask looks like, and this is what it does to the image. This is before, and this is after. Now, so you're saying to yourself, I'm sure at this point, Jay, this looks pretty awful. I would have to agree. The reason why it looks awful is because I haven't adjusted my brush properly. It's way too crude. It doesn't look realistic at all. What I will need to do is change two functions of the brush, and that is the opacity. I will have to right now, if you look up at the top, the opacity is set to 100, and I'll also have to change the hardness. Right now, the hardness is set to 100 as well. I'm going to take the hardness of the brush and then move it all the way to 0, making it nice and feathery toward the edges. And I'm going to take my opacity and I'm going to move it all the way down to about 19, 18, something like that. All right, to get to where I'm going to actually just hit this color range button and click OK, and that just brings it back to a black mask. So with my black mask, I'm going to take my paintbrush, which is set to white, but notice what happens now when I start painting. I click and paint. Every time I click, it gets everything a little bit lighter. This is a nice, what I like about changing the opacity, I'm going to change the size a little bit, is I can bring the colors up, or in this case the exposure up, much more slowly. It gives me much more control, and as you can tell, because the blending mode, because I have a soft brush, it blends in with the non-corrected areas. So it's very important to set a fairly soft brush for most of these corrections, and also really cut down on the opacity. All right, that's looking a little better. We can actually see how much better it is by turning on and off the visibility of that layer. So this is what's the original image. This is what it looks like now. All right, darker, much lighter. So the places that are lighter, where I want it to be lighter, are significantly better than they were. When I turn on and off the visibility, though, you might notice, especially toward the bottom here, there's a little bit of ghosting. All right, if I option click on the mask again, you can see what happened. It kind of spilled a little bit over the side of the bottle. So option click back. What I can do is actually change my brush to black and just kiss this side so it's no longer ghosting. What I'm doing is I'm just adding black to that part of the mask, and that will prevent that problem. So you can actually paint outside the lines and then use the opposite color in this case being black, to paint them back in. And so I can keep on working with this, and usually I will futz with it significantly more. Like I might want to change the cap, make that a little lighter. More interested in making this bottle glow without anything else. Now these adjustments can be done with anything in the adjustment layer. For example, if you use black and white, you could have one colored object in the photograph and you could have the rest be black and white. There are a whole host of other adjustments you can make this way. You can actually stack layers, so you can do different things to different parts of the image. It gives you an incredible amount of control. Good luck, and talk to me if you have questions.